This episode is proudly supported by OpenTable.
Nearly 1/3 of diners are booking same day. So they're making those decisions on the spot. And 10% are making their bookings within just a few hours. And so it's why it's so important to have booking software like OpenTable, which allows your diners to discover you. And so when restaurants are on platforms like OpenTable, they're much more likely to be discovered. We help diners to connect to restaurants. Ultimately, having technology, using technology, helps you to reattach to those diners.
Experience the power of OpenTable. For an exclusive offer, visit restaurant.opentable.com.au/DITW.
And I just love sharing all the knowledge that I've built and all my dishes with my chefs and keep on reinventing in a sense. I mean, I said a long time ago, the day I no longer have a love for it or a drive for it, it's the day I give it up. So knock on wood, I'm still not there.
A quarter of a century ago, Peter Conistis started his lifelong project of redefining Greek cuisine for Australia. He's still going. We catch up with him today at his Sydney restaurant, Ploos, a waterfront restaurant nestled within the heritage-listed warehouses of Campbell's Cove. Peter, I'm so excited to be talking to you, a legend of the industry. Welcome to Dirty Linen.
Oh, thank you, Dani. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really good. I love Greek food. I love waterfront dining. Who doesn't? I'm really excited to dig into your great career and learn more about what you're up to now. Let's start with now. Tell us about the restaurant.
About Ploos?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's been something I've been dreaming about for years. I mean, wow. Firstly, to be able to be in that location, to be right on Sydney Harbour, I'm still pinching myself. As I've been with Alpha for the last 10 years, and when was it? Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember. January 2020, I think it was, when I was offered the space, and I was like, absolutely, I'd love to do that. And well, a few months later, the world kind of stopped and we couldn't do anything for almost a year and a half. But then finally opened a year ago, and it was just something I wanted to do. It was just my next chapter in Greek food in a sense. I wanted to finally start showcasing regional Greek food. And so that's how Ploos sort of came together. I thought I would, how would I put it? I wanted to showcase dishes that a lot of people might not know yet, and I thought I'd start with Crete and Cyprus because their cuisine is so unique and I love it. I'm not from that part of the world, but I've spent a lot of time in those areas, and I just love the food that I've enjoyed from those regions and the indigenous produce and so on. And I just thought, okay, well, I'm going to do that as the next chapter of my life. And yeah, luckily it's been great till now.
Well, that's so good to hear. Great to hear the optimism and energy as you speak about it. Tell us about some of the dishes that really make Ploos what it is, that really sort of speak to the cuisine.
Okay. Let me think. Oh, gosh. I'm trying to think of. Okay, one of the newest dishes we've got on. I remember many years ago when I was in Crete, I had this braised calamari dish and it was served. I just said Crete, in Cyprus. It was a tava dish where they served this braised calamari with eggplants and peppers, and they were using chinos in it, this spice that's in that region. It comes from an indigenous cherry, like where mastica comes from. It's actually the kernel of the wild cherry. And I always loved that dish. It remained with me. And so me being me, I was never happy enough with just doing the traditional version of it. I took that dish, I did almost a roulade of this pickled eggplant and roasted peppers, rolled it up, stuffed it inside the whole calamari, and then braised them in a biba sarkasi, like a spiced pepper paste, and then finished them with a glaze of the chinos, berries, and that's one of the dishes I have on. Another one is a take on the spanakopita, but a spanakopita that's been far removed. But I beautiful like it's a spanakopita, and I've taken the influence of a dish called a manti, which they eat throughout Cyprus, but then they eat throughout the Middle East as well. They're like little dumplings. So basically, I took all the flavors of spanakopita, stuffed them inside these little pastries, poached them in a burnt butter and retsina glaze, and then finished them with shards of baked phyllo. So when you take a bite of it, you've got all the flavors and slight textures of a spanakopita, but served very differently.
Wow, it sounds so cool. And so have you brought this cherry kernel powder, this marlip, from that part of the world back to Australia?
Yeah, quite a few. There's quite a few ingredients that we've had sourced and brought out. Chinos is one of them. Another one, it's just tilio, which is this... Ooh, it's a spice which is like a wild lime. It's traditionally used in teas over there, but I use it to basically do a tea smoke on our duck. Trying to think what else we've been getting out. Lots of the cheeses that we're getting out from that part of Greece. I mean, we're getting manudi out, and we've been sourcing this smoked mezzovo, which is a bit like a Greek style provolone. We've been able to source the most amazing graviera from Crete that our supplier has been getting out for us. So yeah, slowly. I mean, obviously it takes a bit of time to get stuff brought into the country to bypass, or to just to be able to get them what's the word? I can't even think at the moment. Brain's dead.
That's restaurant life.
Yes. Once we get through quarantine, it's great, but it is quite an arduous thing to get through. So slowly, we're able to get a lot of the stuff in.
It must be, yeah, I imagine it's so resonant because, I mean, food from that part of the world, it's so anchored in place, isn't it? And just those special ingredients, those special touches. So Alpha on Castlereagh Street in Sydney is, still part of the stable. Like, how do you sort of balance out Alpha and Ploos?
Oh, gosh. Well, it's just about to have its 10th birthday in a couple of months. So,
congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Very little sleep. I divide my time between both. I mean, I've got two amazing head chefs, one at Alpha and one at Ploos. I divide my time between both of them. I thought at my age I'd be slowing down a little bit, but I seem to be doing more hours than I ever was, and I'm loving it. I'm actually loving it. I do what I do at Alpha. It's sort of my take on traditional Greek and what we do down at Ploos, and I just love sharing. Oh God, I know all the knowledge that I've built and all my dishes with my chefs, and keep on reinventing in a sense. I mean, I said a long time ago, the day I no longer have a love for it or a drive for it, it's the day I give it up. So knock on wood, I'm still not there.
Well, I mean, I did want to talk about this, Peter, 25 or more years in the industry.
30 in May, sorry to interrupt.
Well, you know better than I, and let's definitely, celebrate each one of those years and that incredible longevity. I mean, what is it that keeps you engaged? And what would you say to people that are wondering about their own longevity in the industry? Like attrition is such an issue. Like, what is it that keeps you excited, engaged, like looking forward?
Learning, always learning, discovering new things. I mean, about the cuisine. I mean, I said, the more you know, the more exciting it is. I mean, knowledge is power in a sense. And for me, I love discovering things. Every time I go back to Greece, I might discover something I'd never seen before, some technique of cooking or some ingredient that I'd never heard of, and that drives me. It's a bit hard to explain. I don't know. I mean, the passion's always there. I love creating, and I love sharing that with my customers, and I love seeing people who have followed me through the years and are enjoying this journey with me. The amount of customers that come into the restaurant and say, oh my God, I've been following Peter since Cosmos and Eleni's. I'm like, wow, that's a big thing to hear people saying they've been following you through your restaurants over 30 years and they still want to share this journey that you're on. So that drives me. And I don't know, my advice for anyone starting out in the industry is just to absorb everything that they're taught in the kitchens they're working. I mean, no matter what industry you're in, as I said, knowledge is power, and never feel afraid to ask questions. Speak to your head chef, ask him questions. I mean, even the grumpy ones always have that utmost respect for an apprentice or a junior chef when they show a passion in cooking. So it's just, the more you ask, the more you learn. I think the better it is.
Well, there's a kind of fearlessness in the way that you speak, and I think that was evident right at the beginning of your career when you first went into food. Can you tell us your incredible origin story?
Yeah, yes. Well, I don't know if they really happen these days. I mean, it was a different time 30 years ago. I don't know. I completed my degree at uni. I mean, I did a Bachelor of Communications and thought, I don't know if I want to get into journalism, no disrespect. I mean, I did end up writing a book and do write a bit, but it was just, I was working at a restaurant part-time in the bar, and I kept on walking into the kitchen saying, oh my God, this world is amazing. And it sort of all culminated through when I finished uni. I had this epiphany because throughout the years, I kept on hearing a lot of people talking about, their opinions of Greek restaurants, Greek food, saying it wasn't a very positive, opinion from people that I used to hear over the years. And it was annoying for me to have to defend myself saying, if you ate food at a Greek home, you'd see what it's all about. And I thought, well, that's pretty pointless because very few people, are going to get that opportunity. And it just hit me one day. I was like, I would love to be able to showcase the food that I grew up with, so people's misconception in a sense would be changed about what I know and love about Greek cuisine. So I was like 1993, I think it was in January. Gosh, I finally said, that's it, I'm doing it. I found a tiny little space in East Sydney, and from the time I signed my lease till I opened my doors in May, I basically was renovating the place and teaching myself how to cook in a real kitchen. Yep. So I had Mum there for the first 6 weeks teaching me all the mother sauces and how to make phyllo and so on. From there, I just thought, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do it in a way that I can't be compared to any other Greek restaurant because, I'll be killed. So I basically I don't want to sound like a wanker, but I created a cuisine since I created modern Greek. I did my reinterpretation of Greek food, and luckily it worked for me. So more balls in than brains, I'd say. But I was fortunate enough to be able to do it.
And what did your mum think of this interesting direction?
Well, after she cried for a couple of days about, what do you mean after 5 years of university you want to cook for a living? Look, once she realised how much I loved what I was doing, and she saw what I was doing, they were fine. I mean, they're proud Greek parents. No matter what you do, they're always going to love you for it. And I always kept on saying, hey, if it doesn't work out, I've always got something to fall back on. So
yeah, and tell us, Peter, what was it like growing up in your Greek household?
Definitely. I mean, I know everyone says this, but it definitely revolved around the dinner table or lunch table. I mean, everything, no matter if it was something good, something bad, a birthday, a celebration, it was always around food. Growing up, I never really paid a lot of attention to it, but I always remember seeing all my aunties, my mums, always together cooking, making things. I don't know. Food's a big part of our life. Always was, always is. For me, I never really cooked at home. I think the only thing I ever did when I was Mum kept on telling me, I don't remember, I was about 5 years old. I'd get on a little stool and make her and Dad a Greek coffee in the mornings. That was about it. Until I started.
That's important, though. That's foundational.
Well, exactly. But yeah, it was always centered around food. I mean, gosh, there have been some big moments in our lives over it. So, it was. I think like a typical Greek family. I think pretty much all of them, all Greek families have that sort of commonality to it.
So, I guess you got those bedrock recipes from your mum, but you were very creative from early on. If I say moussaka and scallops to you, tell me what story pops out.
Well, that's also about to celebrate its 30th birthday. That one, I don't know. 30 years ago, I was a lot younger, a bit precocious, a little bit ego-driven. I kept on saying, if I'm going to do things, it wasn't going to be the dishes that people had an opinion about in Greek food. Your classic moussaka, your lamb on the spit, and so on. And that dish came together, I don't know, almost. It's a bit hard to explain. I was mostly I was practicing some dishes in the kitchen. I was frying up some eggplant. I just sourced this amazing cod's roe from my suppliers at the time, who were the Flying Squid Brothers, John Sussman at the time. And I was making up a white tartare because all I remember everyone talking about was the pink stuff they could get. And while I was just making up this white tartare and frying up some eggplant, he came in with these scallops to show me from Harvey Bay. And I was like, ooh. And I just started cooked one really quickly, put it in the eggplant, added the tartare. I thought, oh, something's here. And from there, it just built and became that dish.
Yeah, that's so interesting. What a great story. And so John Sussman's a member of this little podcast network we got going on here. So anyone who hasn't listened to his Fish Tales podcast, out every Friday, please have a listen. It is excellent. And I'm sure he'll be so tickled to hear you remember him with this story, Peter.
Oh, he also remembers that I would have a lot of Greek people coming to the restaurant at the time, and they'd see the word moussaka, ignore the rest of what was written on the dish, and order it, and it would come to the table saying, "Not a moussaka. No, this is disrespectful, blah, blah." It took a lot of that with a lot of the dishes, but that was okay. It was a learning curve for everybody.
I wanted to ask you about this whole idea of immigrant cuisine, and Greek cuisine, I think, is a great example where I feel like so many Greeks came to Australia in the 50s, and the cuisine, pretty much got stuck in that era in a lot of, I think, in households and restaurants. You've been back and forth to Greece a million times. What's your perspective on that? Just about the way that it's almost like this, like a time capsule sometimes when, that represents the stage the immigrant or the era that immigrants arrived in a new country.
Look, personally, I feel that right now this is the greatest era for immigrant cuisine. I mean, God, the amount of restaurants that are opening up, showcasing the food of their homeland is amazing. It's more and more. Look, it should never be forgotten. We as chefs can learn so much from the cuisine, the cooking techniques, the indigenous produce of our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents. I mean, that's how I learned to cook. And that's how I was able to adapt the dishes that I did by learning this immigrant cuisine. I mean, it's important. If you don't sort of, how would I put it? If you don't learn from it, if you don't try and find out more about it, it'll be forgotten, and that'll be a shame. I mean, what it was, it no longer is. I mean, I think a lot of times, especially in Greek cuisine, the 50s and 60s, a lot of people opened restaurants, opened them through necessity. They came here, it's all they knew, so they opened up, those little tavernas and so on, and they were great. But it was more out of necessity from what I knew from all those people. And some still survive. I mean, there's one here in Sydney, the Corinthians, been around for almost 50 years. They've been going, it's been passed on to the grandchildren, and people love it because, it still defines that cuisine, that classic Greek food. And you see it in Greece. They went through a period where they shunned opening Greek restaurants for quite a while. It was all about, interpretations of Italian or French or Thai. God, never have Thai in Greece. Sorry. But now the younger generation, I love it. I see it a lot. They're doing a take on Greek food, be it purest traditional or their interpretations of it. There's an amazing, might have closed. There was an amazing Greek restaurant doing their reinterpretation of Greek food called Funky Gourmet in Athens that had won 2 Michelin hats and it was in the top 100 restaurants for quite a few years there because they just went right left field with their food, and I love seeing that. I love that the younger generation chefs have respected that cuisine, the old school stuff, but have given it a respect in a sense where they're trying to showcase it a little differently, with where we are now in our society. So yeah, that's important. If that all made sense just then.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's such a huge topic. It just sort of makes me think of, I went to a place in Melbourne recently. You know, the owners had moved from Athens in the last decade, and when they came here and they were like, "Whoa, the Greek food you guys are eating, like a lot of it's, you know, we're not eating like that anymore." I mean, in a way, you know, there's a charm in that, and as you say, like there's that honor or that respect in preserving things, but at the same time, the cuisine in the origin country moves on. So it's such an interesting topic. You could just imagine, you know, someone who was researching, you know, Greek cuisine would have to come to Australia to see this iteration of it, because of course it's like maybe it started in the 50s here, but it's like, or the 40s, 50s, but then of course there's Australian ingredients, so it's going to have its own unique spin in that regard. It's it's just really fascinating.
Absolutely. For me, one of the biggest things was many years ago. It was after I'd written my cookbook, and I think I opened Eleni's, or was it during Eleni's or Amiga? I can't remember. But I'd gone to this a restaurant in Athens. I was there doing a food tour, and all the people were saying, "You've got to go try this restaurant. They're doing this amazing reinterpretation of Greek food." I said, "Absolutely." And I remember the name of it was called Left and Right. Arisτερά-δεξιά. It was in the middle of Athens, and I went there. I was with Maeve Amara. We were doing, you know, our food tours there, and we went and we sat down. We looked at the menu, and I giggled for a minute because Maeve said, "Look at this," and my scallop moussaka was on the menu, and my rabbit pie was on the menu, and my crab and halloumi tart was on the menu, and I was like this proud dad saying, "Oh my God, literally these guys have taken my cookbook. They're doing some of their own stuff, but they also had my dishes on there because I was so proud of it." It blew me away. I loved it. I loved it. And I loved seeing how what we were doing here had been taken back to Greece in a sense. And I've seen, and it's not just me. I mean, I know George Columbaris has had that same impact on people with his Greek food over the years. And I love how much of our interpretation of Greek food here in Australia has such an influence on the rest of the world.
That is such a great story. I absolutely love that. It's very cool. Peter, let's, I guess, step a little away from Greek food and just talk about hospitality in Sydney and Australia more broadly. Like, how are you feeling about where the industry is placed? We've been through a strange time. It's, you know, staffing is an issue. You know, how are you feeling about skills, staffing, costs, all those juicy things?
Gosh. I think, look, everything. God, I hate talking about COVID, but post-COVID, it has been hard for everyone in this industry. I mean, produce is just insane. I mean, we need to respect where it's at, but it's just so expensive. Staffing has been hard. I mean, luckily the borders are opening and we're getting some more people in. I mean, we lost a lot of great staff chefs and floor staff. So when everyone had to, you know, leave the country a couple of years ago, a lot of them haven't come back. It's getting there slowly, but it's going to take time. I mean, I know when I opened Ploos just over a year ago, it was really hard. It was just a couple of months from us coming out of lockdown. We could not find staff. No one could. Every chef was calling each other saying, got anyone spare? Got anyone spare? It was really hard. I mean, now it's slowly getting better. It's going to take a while. But, yeah, we just have to, I don't know, it's like anything. We just have to grin and bear it. It's just another obstacle we need to, you know, get over if we can. I mean, it's going to be difficult for a bit longer, but it is what it is, in my opinion.
Does it hold you back in terms of, you know, creativity or your ambitions for your restaurants?
No. Absolutely not. I mean, I'm in the early stages of opening another couple of restaurants soon. One in Sydney and one not in New South Wales.
Ooh, can I twist your arm on that?
Brisbane.
Ooh.
I mean, I did have a restaurant down in Geelong for a while there, for just about a year and a half. And we had to shut down during COVID, and we didn't reopen, unfortunately, because it was very hard on my business partners down there to keep it going. But I loved being down Victoria for a while. I wanted to see, if, I was treading my toes, see if it's going to work down there before I thought about doing something in Melbourne City, which might possibly happen soon too. I'd love to spread my food throughout Australia. God, that sounds sad, but it's what I want to do. It's like I'm still driven to do all that.
Oh, I love it. I mean, yeah, well, speaking on behalf of the whole of Victoria, we would welcome your return. But meantime, it's fine to come to Sydney and eventually to Brisbane as well to eat your dishes. Peter, so fantastic to catch up with you. Really grateful for the energy that you bring to the industry. And long live moussaka with scallops and other great delights.
Thanks, Dani.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.